we are live. Hey, everybody. Good
Hi.
evening. Yeah. Welcome to the Pandemic Proof Singer Series. I'm Danielle Tucker. I'm a singer. Oops, my phone is being loud over here. Where was I? Okay, I'm a singer. I'm a vocal coach. I'm also a lead singer with the Mighty Untouchables band. And I'm also the producer and soon to be host of an event coming up that you need to save the date for. It's November 16th through 18th. It is the Pandemic Proof Singer Summit. It's going to be amazing. So if you are a singer that needs a little boost for 2021, this will be the event for you. Without further ado, let me introduce my amazing guest with me tonight. This is Natasha Kozaily. She is a singer songwriter from San Diego. She writes and records and performs music under the moniker NATULA. Am I saying that right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And you refer to your music as third culture pop as a nod to your third culture identity crisis. You
Yeah.
also run the Calabash School of Music and Arts in La Jolla, and you teach music and inspire students to write their own original material there. You are also the founder and front woman for Baby Bushka, an all female 8-piece Kate Bush experience, right?
Yes, you got
Welcome.
it.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, let's just start with what you had going on pre-COVID and kind of what happened when it hit and what your transition was like into that timing.
Sure. So right before the pandemic, Baby Bushka, actually, we were getting ready to go to the UK on tour,
Mm.
and also go on a West Coast tour. So we were pretty much rehearsing every week and getting ready for that. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and we had to cancel or postpone our tour.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we pretty much went into lockdown, and we had an album that we were going to release on tour. So our West Coast tour was like an album release tour, and the UK tour as well. And so we ended up actually releasing it online instead, and selling like a short run of vinyls, and that went really well, and that was helpful for us, and to support the band during that, especially those first few weeks. They were so scary and uncertain. And
Yeah.
yeah, and so that was Baby Bushka. Baby Bushka pretty much just got shut down and got put to sleep for a while. And then for me personally, at my school, we had to close everything, and all the classes ceased, and the building kind of went dark.
Mm-hmm.
And all the classes went online, that we could. A lot of the music lessons went online. Some people just wanted to stop lessons altogether. All the group classes, of course, stopped. And then, with this, uh, as a teacher, I felt really, disconnected from my students. And when we went online, I decided I was going to create a character, an online character,
Yeah.
not far off from these cheeks. And I put like red lipstick on my cheeks and more glitter. And I created this character called Miss Natty. And so I would like log on and see my students on Zoom, and I'd just be this crazy character and try and make them laugh because they looked all so sad those first few weeks on
Yeah.
Zoom. And then with that character, I ended up creating like a kids' TV show, and where I taught humans of all ages about singers like Bjork, and musicians like Sun Ra and Kate Bush. And so they were like really fun 11-minute episodes with guests and paper mache, props, and it was super fun. And so I did about 7 episodes, and that was sort of my big pandemic creative project. Everyone
Yeah.
wanted to have one. That was mine. And
Is Miss Natty going to live on?
yes, I think she is. I took a break with Miss Natty after about 8 weeks of Miss Natty creativity. It was a lot of work. At the beginning, I was just like, I filmed an episode, and then I would film every Tuesday, and I would edit for like 5 days. Like I wouldn't sleep, and then I'd like release it on a Sunday. And I was very ambitious with my recording releasing schedule. And I hand drew all these activity packs so parents could like download them at home, and the kids could do them while they were watching me.
Wow.
Yeah, I was pretty involved. And so it was exhausting. It was really fun, but it was exhausting. Eventually I started to slow down, and then uh and then I took a break after the seventh episode to kind of recalibrate.
Hmm.
So season two, I guess, is in the works eventually one day. We'll see where
Yeah,
it goes.
awesome.
Yeah.
So things are starting to somewhat transition back in person at your studio, but some of it remains virtual. And how is all that working out?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's hard. It's tricky to be sort of like a school where you have to sort of kind of feel out how your clients feel and your teachers and sort of make these decisions and know even what to do and what the right thing is to do. You know, it's hard, but we are doing it, and so far, knock on wood, it's going okay. So we basically built an outdoor classroom, and so we
Mm.
could teach outdoor art classes with a limited group of kids and wearing masks, and we are doing it with homeschool pods. So there's like small groups of pods, and then yeah, our music teachers are still teaching online, and then some of them are also beginning to teach in-person classes. And so it's a lot of hand washing before and after, and sanitizing, and wearing masks, and staying 6 feet apart, and leaving all the doors and windows open, and yeah, doing what we can to try to stay as safe as possible. And so yeah, that's
Yeah.
how we're.
That's great that you're making it happen. And speaking of the homeschooling pods, did you find that once school went back in session and everyone had to do distance learning, did you have more interest in the private lessons at that point, or
Mhm.
than you had previously? Because I've been curious with kids
Yeah.
not being able to have, their normal music classes at
Mhm.
school. I wondered if that would be a boost for people
Yeah.
with private studios.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a sort of like a new rush of students at the beginning of every school year that want lessons. And it didn't feel as intense as it has in the past.
Yeah.
But what was more popular was the group art classes,
Hmm.
just these like homeschool pods that were desperate to have like in-person instruction. And I found that it's been really hard to get people to sign up for the online classes at Calabash anyway.
Mm.
Just everyone's sort of, I keep hearing the Zoom fatigue that these kids have, and especially the kids that have to do online schooling. They want
Yeah.
a break when they're done and they want to do something in person. So the art has been probably the most popular program that we've had since we opened 5 years ago. You know, the art was always, it was always really music that was uh, our main income, and then the art classes this semester have like just taken off. So that's really nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so hard to predict what's going to work and what people want, and it's changing all the time. It feels
I
like.
know. It really is. It's so hard because you just I kind of feel like I'm shouting into a void sometimes because everybody's sort of all over the place when it comes to
Mhm.
lessons. It's just,
Yeah,
I think people really want to continue on with what they're doing, but the Zoom thing, can be weird, but then it can be really effective. And so
sure. Yeah.
I definitely get it. But I think
Yeah.
over time, the more the more we're going to have to rely on this type of technology, the more everybody will get accustomed to using it. But
Yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
that won't be the case for too much longer.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
going to stop saying that though.
Well, I think it's maybe not as bad for adults, but for the little kids, it's like when they have to be in school all day, I can understand how they don't want screens. So imagine they don't
Hmm.
want screen time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I before we got started here, we were talking about the fact that you just recorded an album. So I want to hear all about the album, but I wanted to back up just a little bit because you have a really interesting background because you actually came from the Grand Cayman Islands, right?
Yeah, they came.
And that the background of your parents really heavily influenced your musical interests,
Mhm.
and you went to school for, or you specialize in ethnomusicology, right?
Yeah,
Tell
yeah.
me what that is.
Sure. Well, ethnomusicology is a study of traditional music, world music, I guess you could say. And so I've always been really interested in music from around the world, especially traditional folk music from different countries. And when I was at Cardiff University studying music, it became my focus. I just, as I started taking classes, I was like, wow, this is what I want to hone in on. And so I did my thesis on actually Caymanian folk music. So it was
Hmm.
a really beautiful journey, to travel so far away from home to end up studying more intimately about where I grew up than I had ever been able to, or, have this opportunity to learn about my country and the music and the culture, something that's not, taught at school
Hmm.
and is really hard to find, honestly, and is sort of like something you have to really look for and search for, and then even still, it can be quite mysterious. And so my thesis actually became the only in-depth writing on Caymanian folk music that has ever been done. So it
Hmm.
was nice to feel also that I was contributing to the cultural heritage of my country, and that was really special. And so yeah, that was and just so the Cayman Islands, a little background on the Cayman
Hmm.
Islands. It's a British overseas territory. It's in the Caribbean, south of Cuba, west of Jamaica. And my thesis focused on this woman who is named Julia Hides, and she lived to be 106 years old.
Wow.
And she was the only female drummer in the history of Caymanian folk music. So she was a real pioneer and legend and personal hero of mine. And so the whole paper was about her, and I got
Yeah.
to interview her at 100 and
You
learn
interviewed her?
songs. Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
that was part of it. It was a whole year of like research and like field recordings and going into the archives and just sort of digging up everything I could find, which, some of it I had to create myself, through
Hmm.
interviews with her. And so it was, yeah, it was really special. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So now with your flavor of music being more folk pop at this point, how is that influenced by your background?
Yes.
Or is it?
Sorry. I'm just gonna plug my computer in
Yes.
because it's about to die. I just forgot to plug it in. Yeah. So like, I guess here we go. Um, so yeah, I grew up in the Cayman Islands. My dad's Lebanese, and I always felt not only that I had this real curiosity about, the world that I lived in,
Mm-hmm.
especially growing up in a very small island where I felt like I was always far away from everything else that was happening in the world. And I'm sure anyone who grew up in a small town or can relate to that feeling. But I also felt that I couldn't necessarily feel completely at home in Cayman because I felt a little bit like an outsider too, being that I was half Lebanese. And then I'd go to Lebanon and visit my dad's family there, and I still wouldn't feel like 100% like belonging
Yeah.
because I was also half Caymanian. So it was always like this sort of like, who am I? Where am I from? What does it mean to be these things? And
Yeah.
so I feel like I spent a lot of my um, early creative life and musical career trying to explore those ideas, um and a lot of my songs were about that and this idea of what home means. And so I guess that's sort of where all those themes come from, especially in the earlier NATULA stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So tell me about the album that you've just recorded.
Yeah, so
Say
uh,
about that.
yeah, I don't think anyone knows that I've made an album yet, actually. But
I
they'll
do now.
soon know because I'm gonna release it hopefully one day soon. Yeah, I guess how it happened was my friend Jordan Andreen, he has a studio. He records everything to tape, and we recorded our Baby Bushka album with him, all
Mm-hmm.
analog to tape. It was a beautiful experience, and he called me and he said he had some time in the studio at the end of August, and I said, oh, okay, maybe we can do something. So the time was approaching. I had some songs in mind, but actually, it was when the time actually came that I started writing a lot of material, and
Mm-hmm.
it was yeah, this the album, I guess, is it's quite a personal album. I mean, it's a lot about grief and sort of dealing with grief in for the first time in my life, really, because one of our band members passed away in June,
Mhm.
and uh, the creation of the album came, a couple months after her passing. So a lot of the themes and a lot of the songs that I wrote, sort of are an expression of what I was going through and that whole experience. And so it was very therapeutic for me and cathartic, and I think part of my processing of everything.
Yeah.
And I haven't even thought too much about how I'm going to share it yet, or even like the visuals that I want to create to sort of go along with it. But it's done. It's getting mixed, and I'm happy with it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh gosh. Um, I if you're comfortable talking about it, I know that you had put together a collection of Nina's poetry too, and
yeah,
that was a big project. What's happening with
yeah.
that?
Well, yeah. So when Nina died, suddenly, there was a group of us, a small group of women, her closest girlfriends, who kind of got together to help the family go through her things and organize a funeral. And it was like 2 weeks of really intense sort of diving into all of those things. And in one way, it was really a nice distraction, I guess. But uh, within that period, when as we were going through her stuff, there was all these pages and notebooks and sheet music, and I was aware of her original songs because she'd played them for me and we'd done concerts together. Um and I just I couldn't not I couldn't let them just
Yeah.
you know go to an attic somewhere and dust waste away. So yeah, as I was helping the family kind of go through these things, her friend Marielle and I, we went and we basically scanned like 600 pages of her original poetry and
Oh,
music. And then the following months, I just spent going through it all and transcribing it because it was all handwritten. There was nothing typed up. And if it was typed up, it was just a piece of paper typed up. I'd have to type it up again anyway.
yeah.
Um, and so yeah, it was a lot of transcribing and typing everything up. And then with her music, the only thing I could find were these Facebook Live recordings, because Nina wanted to make an album for years. I mean, some of these songs were 10 years old or
Mm.
5 years old. Um, and she often would go on Facebook Live or Instagram Live and she'd play her original songs. And so part of I kind of approached it like an ethnomusicology project. Honestly, I was like, I need to find out everything and try to collect all these clues that she left behind. And so I did a lot of Facebook research. I like scanned her entire social media because it was almost like a public diary of hers. And I
Yeah.
was able to find about 9 recordings of her original songs, which then I kind of organized into this Google Drive with lyrics and any kind of sheet music I could find. And then I got much far more talented musicians than me who were good at transcribing, like her friends like Ed Kornhauser and Bob Pierzak and Lexi Mbatia, and they all worked together to transcribe it all to sheet music. And so
Yeah.
it really was a group effort, and I just kind of helped organize it all. And then
Mhm.
but and then once all that work was done, which was a few months, putting the book together was easy, and really happy that that got done because
Yeah. That's an incredible tribute to her.
thank you.
How amazing.
Yeah.
And I wonder if just the whole journey of, collecting and researching, if that, also was therapeutic and
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah. Oh,
It
how
was I
wonderful.
felt like I mean, I always felt like I knew her so well, but I she really was a mystery.
Yeah.
And there was so much about her art, her life, and just her, that she was so humble, and secretive. And so
Mm.
kind of learning about her and reading her poetry and just diving into her art in this way was hard sometimes, but also just really beautiful and definitely part of my own processing for sure. I
Mhm.
felt in some way like I couldn't move forward until this had been done. So when it
Yeah.
was finally done, it was just like another marker in the whole process of grief, which I still don't even understand quite yet.
Right.
It's all a journey, but I'm very grateful that everyone worked together to make that happen, because I think it's all part of that legacy, you know, that we wanted to make for her.
Hmm.
So
Is the book, is it private or is it something that anyone can access?
anyone can get it. Yeah. I made a website for her,
Hmm.
which has all her songs. You can listen to all her recordings,
Oh, wow.
and you can download the sheet music. And then there's like a poetry page where you can go and buy the book off of like Blurb and get your copy and stuff. Or you can
Awesome.
download a PDF too. So
Yeah, I'll make
yeah,
sure that I put a link to that.
yeah, that'd be great. She was
I will.
amazing. People should learn about her. She really was.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Going back to your album, I know that writing is obviously a big passion for you, and it's something that you teach a lot at the school. I'm curious to know, what is your writing process? Is it something that's just a constant part of your life? Some writers are a little more seasonal about it.
Yeah.
They'll get into a flow and kind of have their cycles of it. But what is it like for you?
Yeah. Um, I think it's more cyclical for me too. I usually become pretty tunnel vision on the projects that I work on. So,
Mm-hmm.
and they consume me wholly, you know.
Yeah.
So when it was Baby Bushka, when that was all starting, I mean, that's all I lived and breathed was Kate Bush. I couldn't like, I was like, oh my God, am I ever gonna write original music again? I just all I dream about are these songs that she wrote, you know, and like, and but I goes through phases, you know, and I feel like for me, I guess it's usually based on, you know, the emotional uh, currents that are happening in my life that make me want to write. Otherwise, I feel like I'm too busy doing other things. And my life now as a 35-year-old woman is filled with so many other projects besides my own songwriting projects. So they often take a back burner these days, which is why it felt really nice to just take 2 weeks and just make a record, which is how I
Yeah.
like to how I like to create and record is just like take that chunk of time and just do it,
Hmm.
instead of drawing things out and spending, you know, months or years, you know, working on an album. You know, it's not really how I like to do things. And I guess, yeah, what am I trying to say? I think, yeah, I guess it comes in waves. I kind of go
Hmm.
through lulls where I feel extra creative with the original music, and then there's times where I feel like I'm absorbing more and intaking the inspiration and
Hmm.
waiting for the right time. Yeah, so.
Yeah. And down to like really getting in the weeds, what when inspiration kind of sparks, do you wait for that, or are there things that you kind of proactively do to get
Hmm.
ideas going and moving?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like with the original music, it either starts with me singing in the car
Uh-huh.
and recording voice memos, or it's me sitting at the piano feeling really emotional.
Okay.
And then they just kind of come out. And
Yeah.
then the first draft will be pretty organic. And then I'll work on it for a while after that. Like it'll sit with me and I might leave it for 2 weeks and then come back to it. Or some songs, you know, kind of are left unfinished until the actual album gets recorded. And then I'm like, all right, I have to finish the song now, you know?
Yeah.
But I guess yeah, I think listening to music and other artists is inspiring to me and makes me want to write music. I think that's
Hmm.
probably the biggest one. And and having conceptual ideas. I feel like more and more my creativity is morphing into this more conceptual, performance driven art where it's not necessarily about just the recording or the album. It's more about the concert and the experience I can create for the audience and
Mm.
visual aspect. And that has been what's driven a lot of the work recently and made me want to create things for that. And that's really fun. I think Baby Bushka has inspired me a lot in that way, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So okay.
Well, how with the visual and more of the conceptual thing going, how important is the live performance to you, in live in live
Mhm.
in-person performance
Sure.
versus is this something, do you feel like looking down the road into, 2021, if things are still the way they are now and
Yeah.
we're limited on live performances, is it something you'll consider performing online, or what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I did one concert online in back in August, and it was a fundraiser for the Beirut explosion that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's so funny. I tried so hard to curate that concert as much as possible. Like I built an entire set. I had like three of the girls from Baby Bushka dress up as owls. There was there's this whole projection that went with it, and we didn't talk the entire time. Like it started and it was like a theater performance, and it
Okay.
went through this whole thread and it ended. And it was so stressful. I was like, oh my God, I'm never doing this again. It was so strange. I mean, not only because I had no idea if it was even working. I was like, we're in
Right.
it now. I'm like, I don't even know if we're streaming, but okay, let's just keep going. You know, and luckily we were. But I personally love to create an experience for an audience. For me, that's what's really exciting, right? And so I feel it's so hard to do that, obviously. Like I gave as many instructions as possible to everyone, like light candles, make
Mm-hmm.
sure all these things are, try to create your atmosphere at home to be able to properly receive what we have on offer.
Oh yeah.
And it was a ticketed event. Like people had to go through the process of signing up and paying money. And so it wasn't a free live stream. So I felt like there was a commitment that was already being created, which was
Mm-hmm.
good, which is what I wanted. But still, it's like I hear back later, oh yeah, I was like on a jog and I was like watching your live stream while I was jogging, or like I was cooking
You're
and
like, no, 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 no,
and
no,
I was
no.
like, what? Oh, exactly. And for me, there was also, you finish all these songs and it's just like crickets, you just have,
Yeah.
it's so hard, that feeding off the audience and the energy the communication and dialogue that you have with the audience is for me one of the most exciting things about performing. And so without that, I don't know. And I don't like to perform a lot. I like to perform like once every 6 months and make it really special.
Yeah.
So I feel that I probably won't do any more until I can do it in person. I feel like that's it for me,
That's
honestly.
interesting. That's
Yeah.
really interesting to me. Uh, I'm I'd like to know, like, for you as a performer, when you have that much lead up to a show and that much anticipation,
Mhm.
as performers, we all have nerves no matter what, no matter how often you do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um how does that play out for you, as far as like, cuz I mean, pre-COVID, I would perform, like, not nightly, but pretty often,
Yeah.
and you kind of just drop into this like flow where there's
Sure.
definitely nerves, but it kind of just turns
Mhm.
into more of an energy. But
Mhm.
um how does that play out for you?
Yeah. I guess for me, it's I don't necessarily feel nervous or feel like I'm out of a practice by
Mhm.
not performing so much, because a lot of preparation and rehearsal does go into it. So like for Baby Bushka, it's the same thing. Like we won't play, um, we'll only play every 6 months in town.
Mhm.
And never less than that. And so, but we're rehearsing every week leading up to that. So I feel like we feel really prepared. And when it happens, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
But for me, I guess it's like, um, there's so much that goes into the actual event and performance and concepts and art that I just don't feel like if I did it more often than that, it would have as much of an impact.
Mhm.
For me, that's uh, that's an important part of it, but also just energetically, I put so much into those that I don't know if I could do them any more often than that. And so yeah, I guess, and it's always changing. Like I for the Natula stuff, I feel like I rarely do the same thing twice. Like
Mhm.
this performance is like this, and then next time is gonna be totally different because it's been 6 months and I've had many other inspirations and sort of ideas that have come up. But with the Baby Bushka, that's been more like fine tuning something and growing and evolving, the 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 creative whatever thing that's been created. And so, but it's the same thing. Like I feel like if we played more than every 3 to 6 months, I feel like it'd be hard to get the sellout shows that we do. And I
Yeah.
feel like making people want something is an important part of um the whole thing. But it's different, because I'm not a giggy musician. So like there's girls in the band that play, and that's their full-time income, and they're doing all kinds of gigs. But for me, I guess with the NATULA project, it's just about the art, and so I don't
Hmm.
feel the need or desire to do it more than when it happens.
Yeah. Would that be different for you if you were doing the tour? Would having a different audience,
Mhm.
each time change for you? Would that make
Mhm,
it,
yeah. Sure. I guess touring is totally different, right? And so I'm speaking more locally.
yeah.
But I love touring. I love playing every night. And when Baby Bushka goes on tour, that's like the best feeling ever. And I've done Natula tours before, and that's awesome because that's a different kind of like flow that you get into that I really enjoy, especially with Baby Bushka, where there's so many elements to the show that sometimes you rehearse so much and then you do like a San Diego, LA, San Francisco, like little short weekend run. And then you're just like over and you're like, oh, but we were just getting into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the UK tour was really nice because it was like 11 shows almost every night. And by the end of it, it's like the whole show's changed for you. And you finally feel like you warmed up almost. It's cool. So I
Yeah,
love touring too. Yeah, it's just
definitely.
different, I guess.
When you're touring or even just putting a project together, um, how are you inspired for the visuals? And when you put those elements into a show, how do you manage them within a show? Do you
Mhm.
is everyone just rehearsed with their visual, or do you have someone, I don't know if this is the right term, stage managing or
Sure.
something like that?
Yeah. Are you talking about Baby Bushka?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's pretty much uh the vision is there from the beginning and has been from the very first show. It was sort of like this is the vision and this is what I see, and there's going to be these three women in the front. We're going to be dancing and this is what we're going to wear and these are the colors, and it's all very much inspired by Kate and her music and her visuals. And
Mm,
there's no imitation, which is it's not, for me, that's not, there's nothing creatively exciting about imitating what she's done, but to be inspired by her and then make it our own, and to use her as the seed that allows you to kind of go off of that is just awesome to have that kind of muse. And then of course her music is just so deep, and then to be able to interpret that is just where all the vision comes from. And that's, I think, what makes it feel so authentic for Kate Bush fans, because they can recognize those things when they watch the show,
yeah.
even though it might not be obvious to someone who hasn't seen Kate or doesn't know Kate Bush very much, or but for the people who know and are diehard fans, they look at Baby Bushka and say, wow, they've taken it, they've made it their own, but it's still really pure and respectful in all these other ways. And so um, I think that's the key, just being authentic to like why you do it and what what it is you're saying. And she's just so fun in that way because she is so eccentric and has so many stages that she's been through, where she's been the cabaret and the camp and the hyper mime theatrical, and then the more demure, older version of herself. And so there's so much, it's almost like the stages of womanhood. That's how I feel about it. and
Okay.
and then as the band has grown, like now it's just changed because of the women in the band, and what they bring to it. And the songs now mean something completely different to us.
Yeah.
And so that's really, it's become sort of this monster that's just kind of now doing its own thing. I don't have to work so hard anymore to
Yeah.
bring it together, and everyone's got, great creative ideas. And so it's so much fun. It's hard to describe the kind of magic that has grown out of it, but it's really there. It's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Did you say that it a Baby Bushka album that you ended up releasing online, or was it your own album?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a Baby Bushka album
Okay.
that we recorded April 2019. and we made some vinyls. We printed like 500 vinyls. We sent 400 to the UK because we were going to go on tour, and
Mhm.
100 here. And then, of course, when the tours got canceled, we decided to sell them online for a period of time and raise money for the band during the pandemic. So
Okay.
yeah, but that is available. You can listen to it on a Bandcamp.
Okay.
So
I'll look
and
for that for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. So now that you have this new album that you're going to release,
Yeah.
having lessons learned from the previous album release online,
Mhm.
are you going to wait to release it? Or are you going to release this one online too? And what worked, what didn't work for you?
Mm. Yeah, I feel like um it's so weird thinking about releasing an album just because of the times. I feel like it's really hard. I feel like people don't really release albums anymore. They release like single, 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 and
Right.
then the album will happen, you know. For me, the album is like split into two. There's like a side A, side B. I think of it like a vinyl where there's like this light side and this dark side.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost want to release it with visuals. So I
Okay.
have an idea for like a short film for the dark side, the 4 songs sort of to weave together into this sort of longer short film. And so it might be a while before I release it because I want to make that to go with it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. It might be like a year before anyone hears this album. Sometimes I make things and I don't release them at all. There's just like a vault where I've just like
Yes.
put so much energy to
Haven't
making
seen the
things,
light of day.
and they're just like, nope, not gonna release it. Maybe in like
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah. What what would be an example of what would prevent you from releasing something? Just do you lose interest in it, or do you just not, do you lose confidence in it or interest?
It's more just like either not being happy with it, and not feeling like it was, just sort of being a perfectionist, and not wanting to compromise my artistic vision.
Yeah.
So if it's not what I envisioned, or if I'm not satisfied, then why release it? It's just like, I don't see the point in that. It's like, oh, so I mean, so that's sometimes the reason, and then sometimes it's just feeling like I've moved on so quickly. So I guess, yeah, it's maybe not losing interest, but feeling like I yeah, I guess I'm not inspired by that anymore, and I feel like the sound has dramatically changed. I feel like that happened more earlier in my career when I was developing as a songwriter, and things were just happening so fast for me, and
Mhm.
as far as my own voice and sound was changing so quickly that I would make things, I'd listen to them like a year later and be like, oh my god,
Yes.
please. So I've made so many YouTube videos private. Just like things that have been out there. It's like, okay, it's time to take you down.
Yeah.
um so I think that's kind of normal. I feel like that's something that everyone goes through, but I guess more recently, I just I guess I've become more pickier about what I make, and then what I release, and wanting it to be, true to what I want to say. And I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. I think I
Instead
go
of
through
just
that cycle
releasing.
too. It's but it's more like daily or hourly for me, the cycle that plays out. I'll start something and
Right.
walk away for a sec and be like, "Ugh, that's dumb.
Yeah.
I'm
I
never
know what
looking
that's
at this
like.
again."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So tell me about working with the kids at the studio and your process of songwriting with them. How do
Mhm.
you, kids are so funny. Some are an open book and are
Yeah.
willing to express themselves in every way imaginable. But then there are others that are real shy and, closed off to that stuff.
Yeah.
How do you, what's your first step with a young songwriter?
Yeah, you're right, totally right that some kids just, it's so intuitive, and they're just like, I wrote a song today, and you don't even
Yeah.
have to ask them to write a song, and then you're just like, cool, let's hear it. And then some kids are, oh, you want me to write a song? Just like,
Yeah.
God, no. So I guess I love to kind of take away their preconceptions of what it means to write a song, and
Mm,
I often start with a lot of improvisation, and kind of demonstrating how you can, either, improvise on the piano without actually knowing anything, um, and that less is more sometimes. And the same thing can go with lyrics. And so I often get them to write streams of consciousness, and then we put those to music, or we'll even take a text that isn't theirs and just start singing it. And so just trying to get them to organically sort of experiment
Mm-hmm.
with just making stuff up. And and with everyone it's so different. So sometimes it's really easy and sometimes it's doesn't flow as much, or the student is just too scared. It's so funny. I feel like it's uh to be so young and to have so many fears about that stuff, it's sad.
Right?
Right. So
Yeah.
it's just trying to give them more confidence and boost them up, I think is a big part of it too. Just like, hey, don't, it's just music. Let's not be so serious. Let's make up a song about, you know, uh Brussels sprouts or something,
Yeah.
uh, and then kind of go from there. It could be about anything. And then we'll make a song and it'll be like, oh, that wasn't so bad, right? And then so I guess it's yeah, I think as a teacher in general, I'm just a very um spontaneous and organic instructor and educator, where I love to meet the kid and craft our music making together based on
Mm-hmm.
their personality. And um even just like, even if I have a plan, to be able to throw that plan out the window and do something completely different based on what everyone's feeling in the room, and I love teaching like that, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's great work. Have you how do you find that kids, or are you noticing anything how they're responding to the conditions that we're living in right now? Are
Mm.
you seeing a change from before, or do you think they're adjusting well? I'm sure each one is different, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think the kids that I've been interacting with, it's almost like they've adapted somehow in a way. And it's, I mean, I should say this with the kids that I'm teaching in person, just sort of like they're happy to be there, really
mhm,
happy, and they appreciate it. And they're just stoked to be doing stuff in person. That's kind of the vibe that I feel. With some of my online students, I can definitely feel the wear, and that seems a little harder to
mhm,
watch them. There's some students that are just, I mean, going on like since March, that haven't interacted with other kids in person, who have just been at home, and real quarantine and still learning like that. And I can imagine that is hard. I don't know what it must like to be a parent right now. I can't even comprehend. And
mhm,
I have so much compassion for parents right now, just because I don't think it's healthy or natural for a child to continue learning that way. Or and teachers too, classroom teachers who have to teach that way, it's just not
mhm,
ideal for sure. And
mhm.
so yeah, I don't know.
It's
Everyone's
a
yeah.
it's a mind-blowing conflict. I have two young daughters who are 6 and 8,
Mhm.
and we're fully homeschooling them right now. And it's like what's so challenging about it is that we're dealing with something that as adults we're not equipped to deal with.
Yeah.
And then we're responsible for helping our children cope with it.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
Mhm.
children are so adaptable,
Yeah.
and I find that, or what I'm seeing is the children are adapting better than the adults are
Sure.
in
Yeah.
most cases. But as a parent, it's heartbreaking because I want my kids to be at school with their friends. I want them to be doing
Yeah.
all their activities and, having a great time. But on the other hand, I
Yeah.
want to guard them
Sure.
from anything that could potentially, bring harm
Yeah.
to them. And so there is just
Totally.
this wacky, it's just such an awkward, bizarre
Yeah.
situation to be in. And, you know,
Yeah. You just have to make the most of it, I guess. Yeah. Just the best
you
that you
really
can.
do. Yeah. And just kind of taking it, day by day and
Yeah.
figuring things out as we go along. But
Yeah.
I love that you're doing the work that you're doing. I'm sure it's, incredibly meaningful to
Thank
them.
you. It's meaningful
Yeah.
to me. I'm happy to be teaching again and continue to be able to teach. It's feel very grateful. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the future? I know we absolutely cannot make predictions on, you
Yeah.
know, what's coming up. But um, are you are you making plans into the future? Or are you just as far as like thinking about potential projects
Mhm.
with the band or just personal
Yeah.
projects? Are you even like looking out in the distance on that, or are you just kind of
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
laying low on it?
No, I think for a while it was really hard to, plan. And I love to plan. I love to like
I get
put
that.
dates and like, have projects and like, oh, this is when we do this. So no, I think I have started to kind of, I mean, for Baby Bushka, we've postponed our tour to June 2021. So
Okay.
whether or not that actually happens is yet to be seen. But um, I think we're still going to plan and as if we are going to do it. And if it changes, it changes. And so that feels good to have
Yeah.
that at least on the horizon.
Yeah.
Um, and to remain hopeful that 2021 we will be able to go on stage again, even if it's the end of 2021.
Hmm.
But for me, years go by so fast, and
Really.
when it comes to planning a tour, like a year is like almost not enough time. So it doesn't feel that far away. So
Hmm.
yeah, I guess that, and uh, that's pretty much it for as far as like playing live.
Hmm.
um and then the rest of it that I have in my head will just have to wait until the world opens up again.
Yeah.
And that I'm sure will give spark to all the other things that I have stewing. But yeah, yeah.
That's good. That's good. I know I'm a planner like you too. I can't not be
Mm-hmm.
uh putting something together at any
Right.
given
Yeah.
moment. And so, amidst all of this, I'm trying to, turn over every stone I can of possibility, whether that's performing online or, there's all of these creative ideas coming up, doing like the drive-in movie concerts or,
Right.
streaming.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that there's a lot of cool possibility, and I feel like the longer this drags out, some really like innovative things will emerge that will make a lot of sense,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of
Yeah.
bring back some hope. Today, I actually just did a tour of a sound and production company that we've worked with for a long time, Seas out in SEAS in what area were we in? Carlsbad. And we went through their warehouse, and they have set up this incredible stage, and
Cool.
just the lighting, the technology they have to do the live streaming. I walked in, and they had some demos going on for us, and the stage
Yeah.
was fully lit, and the
Cool.
sound was fully up, and I just
Um,
felt like I was going to have a heart attack or something just being there in that environment. And
right?
so
Wow.
it like brought me a
I
lot of
saw
hope,
that
but then
on your
stabbed me in the
Instagram.
heart.
Right? I know. Yeah, it looks cool. I saw that on your stories.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
was like,
amazing.
ooh, light stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
No people, but
Right.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it was so good to talk to you. I'm so happy to meet you, even though we're not in person. It was
Yeah.
good to see your
Likewise.
face and hear you. I can't wait to hear and see your new album.
Thank
So
you.
definitely be on the lookout for that. I
Thanks.
am going to link up all of your links
Cool.
within
Thanks.
the comments. Is there one platform in particular that you're on? Are you on Instagram or Facebook or anything?
I feel like yeah, I'm on Instagram more than Facebook. Um,
Hmm.
and my website, natashakozaily.com, takes you to all the things.
Okay.
So that would probably be the most comprehensive site to learn things from.
Okay.
And then I love babybushka.com. And then of course NinaLeilaniDeering.com is where you can find all about Nina.
Yeah. And are you do you have openings for new students that may want to come on?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
What area of
So
town are you in?
that's in Bird Rock.
Okay.
So yeah, the school is calabasharts.com. And
Hmm.
so and you can find out all about the teachers and classes and we have an Instagram too. We are Calabash. So
Wonderful. Well, I will definitely link to all the things. And I can't
thank
go
you.
away without reminding everybody about November 16th,
Yeah.
17th, and 18th. I'll be hosting the Pandemic Proof Singer Summit. I'll be putting out a lot of information on it soon. So, more to come on that. But if you're a singer and you are looking for ideas for what to do in 2021, this will be the event for you. For now, thank you again. Thanks for
Thank
taking the
you.
time to do this. It was
Yeah.
great to see you.
Have a
And
great week.
you too. Say good night, everybody, for joining
Good
us.
night.
Good night. Thank you.